Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin wa salatu wa salamu ala ashrafi anbiya mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. I thank the organizer, Ma'adin Academy, for this auspicious 20th anniversary to share with you some of the developments in Islamic finance and banking throughout the world. And some of my points will be from the perspective of what Malaysia has experienced. And I also like to share with you a few points with regard to where and how the current international financial system looks like. If the international financial system which we have today is in crisis, we witness instability which continue to hurt the economy and to hurt developing economies like Malaysia, Indonesia, India. So the current system is so unfair and unjust, but we continue to live in it. So all of us have witnessed and are affected by financial matters, or what we call financial crisis. The one which have many change in the outlook in the Malaysian economy is a crisis in 1997-1998 financial crisis. Do you remember that crisis? Do you remember the crisis? Yeah, that is the crisis which changed the entire landscape of developing countries. That is the crisis in which Malaysia lost a great amount of development, of 30 years of development. Indonesia had to change the leadership from President Suharto into whereby there will be democratic policies in place. Thailand went down. Everybody got into problem and crisis. And then 10 years down the road, there was another crisis, which is the subprime crisis of United States of America. Do you remember that? That was made in United States of America. But who were those who were affected? Throughout the world. Every one of us was affected. Every one of us have to feel the pain of something which was not done by us. This is done by the United States of America. And now 10 years down, 2018, there was also a crisis, but it was immediately addressed, which affected the country of Turkey. Turkey is doing a lot of changes. They are doing and managing the economy well, but those surrounding them will not be happy. So we see the cause of all these crises can be traced to the existence of a greater agency problem between all players of the market, which came as a result of greed and encouraged people on emphasizing how to maximize profit regardless of doing it ethically or otherwise. Researchers have argued that Islamic financial system provides a better system and much more superior in terms of medium of exchange, fair, ethical, just system of banking and financial system. But the operators of the system is required to behave as the system itself dictates otherwise. The system will not be much different from the collapsing conventional system. And then we see Islamic banks. They are also faced by different kinds of agency problems, which may lead to make the operations of Islamic banking uncompetitive compared to their conventional counterparts. The agency problem faced by Islamic banks resulted from the absence of an Islamic man, because you must understand that the economic man dominates the behavior of the international monetary system. Therefore, whatever outcomes are based upon the value system of the existing economic man. So you see, financial crisis after crisis is because of the greed and fear of the main players in that system. Agency problems are faced. Agency problems are conflict between the principal and the agent. The principal are the real owner of what should be done. Agents are working as our agent to manage issues. If you see United States of America, for example, the corporation, the banks and everything is managed by a management team. They might not necessarily be the owner. The owners are the principal who are engaging this management to run the show. At times, maybe in the Islamic banks, in the banks, conventional banks, for example, most of the depositors, most of the fund might even be our funds. But it is being managed by people who are not in line to our wish. Therefore, they will not be championing our desires and aspirations. So, if we have Islamic banks, for example, it's our funds, it's our people running according to our value system, then you will see how much more can we achieve. Therefore, the agency problem are faced by modern institutions irrespective whether they are financial or non-financial institutions. The current financial crisis, why is it that I am emphasizing the financial crisis? So that you can realize that the existing system have to be changed. Existing system is not a stable system. And how and what we want to do, as you know, economics and finance is social behavior, is our behavior, our innate. If we do not change, we will still be accepting the current existing institution. Therefore, the current existing institution will not be aspiring according to our desire. And if problems arise, we have to face these problems, which is not our making. Why? Because we are not in control of the system, of the institution who should be playing in accordance to our desire and our value system. Therefore, financial institution works and operate if it has been wiped out by large losses like the crisis, then they have to deleverage to reduce the debt and build out the capital basis. The United States of America, at times of crisis, for example, in the 2008 crisis, when a lot of banks went bankrupt, what did the United States of America's prescription to these banks? They were bailed out. They were provided with cash to bail out whatever wrong decision which they have made. But in 1997, in the financial crisis, where all the local banks in Malaysia, in Indonesia, in Bangkok, in Philippines, when they were having problem, what was their prescription by the United States, by the Fed, by the IMF and the World Bank? Is to shut down, is to declare bankrupt. Why? Because they say so that the foreign banks can come and take over. Because they say that there was an agency problem. These banks have failed to do what they should do. But the same problem arises in the United States of America in 2008, but the prescription is to salvage these people, to make sure that these banks still continue, even though they make much worse mistakes than what happened in 1997, what happened in the developing countries. Why? Because IMF, World Bank are manned by people who safeguard their interests, their vested interests, not our interests. So these lessons in financial crisis should be an awakening to us. We should be awake to say to us that developing countries, developed countries, world agencies are not going to champion our needs, our rights. We have to take control of what we should be doing. If we fail to see that, then we will be continuing to face problem after problem, and we will not be able to come out of whatever zone we are in. We will not be able to come out with regard to whether we are going to be high income or middle income. We will still be in the low income. Why? Because even though we are hardworking, the resources are not in control by us. These are being controlled by agencies in according to what they wish us to do. So this creates a lot of problems. This current system is an unjust and unfair system, as it has created wide disparity among nations and within nations. You can see the gap between the rich and the poor, between rich nation and poor nation is not getting closer, it's getting wider, because the system is what makes us to have wrongly adopted policies which is not to our benefit. So, as I mentioned, agency problem. This agency problem is misalignment of interest between the agent and what they should be doing for us. Therefore, these are not in line with the interest, and it has caused a lot of problems to the nation building and to firms in terms of how to maximize their shareholders. So the conventional capitalist monetary system worsened the situation because the people in the company and in the developed nation maximizes to their own needs and not at the expense of the majority. Although the Islamic financial system is saved from the current financial system, when the financial crisis came, the Islamic financial system was not affected that much, is because of the rigid and very close monitoring of accountability which is required by the Islamic financial system. So the nature of financial crisis, if you see what actually happened, is that the collapse in the financial crisis, as I mentioned, the collapse of a lot of household banking names, high price of capitalism and finance. So as I pointed out, all these crises which is happening in the Middle East, which is happening in the developed nation, is because they are living beyond their means. As for today, United States of America should have been bankrupt, but they are still ruling the world is because of the nature of how they control the economic system, how they control the financial system, and how they have dollarized the use of US dollar, which has made them to continue to be strong, irrespective of whatever they are doing, because in terms of hard work, they have lost it out. After the Second World War, America was having a surplus. They went and rebuilt Europe after the Second World War. That time they were doing the right thing. But today, they do not have any surplus to go about. They are the largest debtor. And as of today, the government of the United States is already shut down, meaning to say many of them will not be getting salary. Why? Because they have to increase the debt of the nation to continue to operate. The indebtedness and overborrowing of developed nations have contributed to the continuous collapse of their system and of their values. So the Wall Street, for example, also very important in the stock market, is fueled. At one time, they were just being injected into the economy of very cheap credit, low standard and high grade. So workers who have not been paid well, they were able to mortgage properties to get more funds. So in the 2008 crisis, it's because they have lent money to those who do not deserve to borrow money. And this have led to, after that, the mortgages have been made into investment units. And this, once the initial borrowers cannot pay back, then the whole system collapsed. It is like a Ponzi scheme too. So the subprime mortgage crisis, that is what the 2008 crisis led to financial institution losses and drop in their share prices, which brought about the collapse of the broader market. So in 2008, when the American market collapsed, the finance collapsed, the reason being the use of dollar makes it such that developing countries like China, for example, still able to export their goods and services, but because of the collapse in the United States, the whole world's economy collapsed. So when it happens like that, something which is not done by us, but have to be felt by us because of the interdependency between the developing and the developed countries. So in this situation, we need to understand that why is it that alternative systems are not looked upon. So as I make a point to you that the current international financial system, current international monetary system, the medium of exchange using US dollar is not benefiting us. So we have embarked upon Islamic financial system. So we need to understand that the financial system that we have now was developed on an ad hoc basis after the old system was destroyed by the United States President Nixon in 1970s. So that is what we call the Bretton Woods has been. Last time they will say dollar as good as gold. Why? Because $1 can be exchanged to 35 US dollar is equivalent to 1 gram of gold. But that system is no more. US dollar is not more backed by by gold. It is just a fiat money. So therefore, irresponsible printing of US dollar contributes the world instability and an unjust and unfair system for the hard-working developing nations. So now is the time for Muslim countries to take advantage of the current global economic collapse and turn the crisis into an opportunity by capitalizing on Islamic finance. So that is the important. As the first speaker has pointed out, Kerala, Malabar contribution to economy, not only in this nation, in Malaysia too, you will see a large population has contributed to the economic advancement of the economy. And I was there in Saudi as a holder of the Islamic finance chair, and I see many of your fellow people contributing to nation building. Therefore, something which of your familiarity in business, in economy, is not something new. But why is it that we cannot play the supreme role? Why is it that we are not playing the dominating role? Why is it that we are still passengers and following trend which is not going to be beneficial to us? So now is the time for Muslim countries to take advantage of the current global economic system and try to capitalize on Islamic finance. Muslims have always doubted the effectiveness of the current financial system, led by the United States, dominated by dollar, mere paper money, premised on the fiat system without any intrinsic value. All these Islamic finance have addressed it. Islamic belief system has addressed that we should be dealing in transaction which is fair, which is stable. Not that it has not been shown to us, it has been shown to us. But our fear of adopting something new makes us such that we might lose out by the existing continuing system. Therefore, we just want to continue with the existing system. But the existing system is creating more and more instability. The Muslim world has been taken advantage of, even though we are rich in natural resources. You see any Muslim country, which country is poor in resources? Oil, Muslim world. Minerals, uranium, Niger. You know Niger, where is Niger? Not Nigeria, Niger. Niger is the poorest nation in Africa, but they are the richest uranium, which is very important for nuclear, and they have got also large reserve of gold, but they are the poorest. Why? Why is it that we have all the resources, but when we normalize it, make it dollarize it, we lose out? Why? Because we are not managing the financial sector. The financial sector is the determining sector. That is the dominating sector, which will ensure that whatever we do and whatever we take will be just and fair. Within our countries, there are wide disparities, with the majority being poor. You see developing countries, you see Muslim world, the poor are there. Why should they be poor when everything which is taught to us in Islam is already addressing us? If we can control our greed and our fear, we will make sure then we can see the golden age of Islam will be returned back to the Muslim world. The collapse of the global financial system would definitely burden us more and more. Life is going to be more miserable. You see the crisis, this time it is the lapse of 10 years, but the crisis is happening every very shorter period. Why? Because of the dominating currency is a currency which is losing its value. The dominating country which is dictating is also losing their value system. So we have to look into what we can do. So if you see Indonesia, for example, largest Muslim population, strategically positioned and politically influential, being affected badly in crisis, be it food, energy, currently financial, major repercussions. Because of what happens to them, we also affected, Malaysia and Singapore. So we need to see how we can take advantage of the, so with the collapse of the current global system, for example, if the global system collapses, best time to introduce alternative Islamic global financial system. So what are we waiting for? If we want unity, anything in finance, it has to be united. That's why United States of America. America is not as United States of America. They have got 52 states. In the Muslim world, every 52 states want to have their own flag, their own thing. We are not united. Well, therefore, we cannot show strength in the economic and in the financial sector. We can't even have a common currency. We cannot even have a common policy to enhance our resources. We fight among ourselves. We even do not know how to appreciate the resources which we have. Sometimes all these resources are also abused. So it can be seen that the current global financial crisis, the Islamic financial system is strong and has not been pulled along to collapse. Surely there are many strong characteristics which have prevented us from failing together with the conventional system. There is no doubt whatsoever the Islamic financial system is much more rational, just and ethical. The Islamic financial system is structured in a more transparent and tangible way and is not based on interest rate but the value of assets. You must understand, when Islamic financial system, it is not risk transfer, like the bank transfer the risk to the borrower and the banks wants always to make money. In the Islamic financial system, it's all risk sharing. You will see about musyarakah, mudarabah, all these are in nature. When the Prophet embarked on business, it's all sharing. If you have got capital, the other person has got the skill, share it. That is the beauty of Islam. But not in the modern financial system. In the modern financial system, the capital control developed nation have bullied the developing nation all throughout. You can see how the crisis after crisis is because of their policy at the expense of the well-being of the developed nations. So, in order for the Islamic financial system to protect from such crisis, there is a need for the professionals and the stakeholders of the system to prioritize harmonizing Islamic banking and finance standards, because as long as the market remains divided, as I mentioned, we have to be united by different jurisdiction and interpretation of the Sharia standard. Islamic finance is unlikely to grow beyond the shores of Muslim countries. We must make sure that Islamic financial system is good for all, not only for the Muslims. We must be playing the dominating, we must be at the driver's seat. There is a need to be continuously innovative and come up with fresh finance products that sets them apart from their conventional counterpart. These challenges can be overcome. The fact is still that Islamic finance is the better choice, fair, just, and ethical. This is the best time for us to be serious in trying to project our system. If not, we would be lose out of this opportunity. Today being a Friday, I have to shorten my presentation so that the other, being a keynote, that's why I can address the overall picture, and you will be able to see all my panel participants and presenters will be in their specific areas. So, as I mentioned, that not everything is good. There will be challenges. The Islamic banking is being faced with a lot of challenges now. They have been questioning the Islamic product. You will see Malaysia is very liberal in our financial product. Some of our products, some of our standards are not accepted in the Middle East, but still, the need for Islamic banking, the need for Islamic financial system is very serious. We have to go with it because financial intermediaries are important for economic growth. At one time, Muslims doesn't want to participate in the banking sector, and that we have lost out a lot because the capital requirement for us to enhance, for us to invest, these financial intermediaries are pooling the funds. And if we are not the player, then they will be giving it to others who will be championing their value system. That, like the presence of Islamic finance, Islamic banking, alhamdulillah, we were able to meet it according to our religious needs, according to how to make sure there is no riba, no gara, no maisir, and we try to address how we can go forward with this system. And with the current development, every time you will hear that the rate of growth of Islamic bank is like 20%, 30%. But still, the percentage to the total global asset of Islamic finance and Islamic banking is very, very insignificant, very, very small. So we have to embark and see and realize how we want to make it happen. Why is it that our own people now today questioning the importance, and why is it that they are not embracing fully the Islamic financial system and Islamic financial products? So these are challenges which we can overcome once we are able to sell the idea that what we are in are worse off. We have to go back to our value system. We have to embrace the things which have been taught to us by the Prophet. And you see the example of the Prophet. He is not only for religious matters, but he's a strategist. He is a businessman. And how he has enhanced businesses and how markets have developed. So the Muslim countries, so in conclusion, the Muslim countries must possess a dire need to cooperate, build up trust and alliances to achieve some synergy effects and to be able to create some economic balance in the global era and take advantage of the current global crisis to put our agenda in action. Without socio-economic integration between Muslim countries, Muslims would continue to be dictated and at the mercy of a system dependent on Western nations or blocs which would not benefit us. Muslims should not be passive, merely to watch, look and see. Instead, they should become active participants in the field of economy. Muslims should not be adopting blindly the system and norms of the West. Instead, they should fully utilize the natural resources and they have to produce their own products and to benefit them. Muslims should adhere to the concept of Ukhwa Islamiyah and Ummatan Wahidatan and avoid conflicts among Muslims. Therefore, as I mentioned, for the case of India, even though Muslims are minority, they are very significant and very powerful minority. And attempts have been made to the central bank and how to accommodate Islamic banking, Islamic finance. But that is at the macro level. At the micro level, nobody is stopping us from adopting whatever Islamic arrangement we should embark upon. Because not only at the macro level is important, but it's also important at our own level. We have the resources. We have the combination. The most important thing is the trust. Do you have the trust? Every individual can, with close cooperation, can see results in the macro level. With that, I thank you all. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.